Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Good day! I am Sofia Fe B, Nazareno.
I am Jane Ternio.
I am Ella Villamor.
And you're listening to episode 1 of Perception and the Truths of Information Age, the Privet Podcast.
In this episode, we will be talking about the observations 1 to 3 from the Truths of Information Age by Robert Harris.
Before we get started, do me a favor and think. How much media did you consume today? 2 hours? 3 hours? An average person would spend approximately 10 hours consuming media. That's over 40% of your day. And where or how do you consume it? By watching TV, listening to the radio, surfing the web, or listening to podcasts. 96.6% of Filipinos watch TV daily. Despite the slow internet connection, in 2019, the Philippines spent the most time on social media. How much time, you ask? A whopping 4 hours, double the worldwide average.
Observation 1 states that media space must eat. Media means multiple mediums. A medium is a thing or a method in which something is communicated. Books, newspapers, films, songs, video games, TV shows, YouTube videos, magazines, tweets, DVDs, Instagram stories, billboards, emails, notifications, pamphlets, podcasts. In this definition, the reason why we consume so much media becomes obvious. It is because it is almost everywhere in so many forms. But we more prominently think of media to refer to medium of mass communication, TV channels, videos, newspapers, radios, cinemas, magazines, ABS-CBN, CNN, and so many others. And depending on the medium, the form and length of the information are being adjusted and quantified. For instance, users of social media more likely prefers media that fast consume, Snapchat stories, TikTok or photos. News and media website these days even quantifies the amount of time a reader can finish a single article putting near the headline. In social media and other mediums like magazines, writers and editors tend to have writers and editors deem written pieces to fit the medium and satisfy its audience. So does the opposite in other mediums such as books, movies, and other long-form media.
Media platforms, especially print media and television, require a constant length, time, or size to distribute. Say a television news broadcasting show's given airtime is 90 minutes a day. News writers and broadcasters have to fill that exactly both to please the expectant audience, fill in the area around advertisements, and keep the business going to talk about later. Hence, even when there is no information is scarce, writers, producers, and reporters have to find the content they could spread out, repeat, or include the unimportant information from past news. They can invent or produce one by researching and finding other topics and ultimately being creative. The opposite may happen too, where there is too much information or too much new information, so much to show that the media must omit, select, or condense. The point is that the media space must eat. The media must always feel the demand. As Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message.
Moving on to second observation, it states that information must compete. Did you know that Cardi B made $24 million in 2020? Or that Finding Dory made $1 billion? Sure, media is a form of communication, a key to globalization, and the tie that connects cultures. But it is a lot more than collections of information, of books, songs, or movies. The media is also a lot of money. The media is made up of massive, profit-making industries. Specific people make most media. especially in the mass media that we consume, with specific paychecks. With the increasing number of mediums that allow almost anyone these days to present information in the media, the clutter and overflow of information require knowledge to be interesting enough to attract an audience and create profit, to persuade them.
To further understand this, here are some ways competition is mounted in the information arena. The first one is exaggeration. This is when overclaims, extended narratives, tickles advertising vibe. This is when the media manipulates certain information or messages to make them look more interesting. Say an article advertising shops selling organic produce explaining how regular commercial broccoli can harm you and how the pharmaceutical industry is manipulating and selling harmful fertilizers to harm us and sell their medicine. Or like when the producers of Cardi B swap waffles and pancakes music video decided to bring Kylie Jenner in and surround the set with sculptures of the women anatomy. Now, they got 332,603,513 views on YouTube with over 1 million dislikes and a lot of hate comments. I bet this MV made more money from hate than make a year.
Next is the information one-upmanship, trying to outdo the competition by making where each story is more bizarre, as if much more interesting or important than the previous one or than the others available. A little bit more detail, a little bit more tragic, a little more entertaining, more exciting.
And the last one is scarcity. When almost all in the world is in social media, on all breathe, eats and drinks and craves information the most exclusive, as aforementioned, with the rise of too much information, the newest, the most private, and secret of the information are also the ones that the consumers wanted most, as if the audience become an insider. Day in the lives, the insider, exclusive interviews, making it appear as if that information is not known. That is why the Kardashians just decided to, keep the cameras in their house and make them watch all that they do every day.
For the third observation, the early word gets the perm. The first media outlet to cover an issue often defines its terms, context, and attitude surrounding it. It sets certain truths that the media and essentially the entirety of the society will accept. The first truths reported becomes the permanent label and concept. The first to cover a piece of information can set the arena where an issue or information will be looked at.
Before we end this podcast, let me just remind you that the media can easily be manipulated with money. Capitalism is dictating and destroying it. We all should always be aware of how the media can be manipulated and corrupted through power and money. We should always try and not let the media and what it portrays ultimately dictate our values, culture, and norms.
And that's it for today's episode. We would also like to thank Marc Wendell Abo, Patricia Luna, and Aldrin Lozano for the information, Ronald Llaneras for the music, Cherielou Bibon for the cover art, Sofia Nazareno and Maetrix Manlangit for the script and editing. This has been your speakers, Jane Ternio,
Sofia Nazareno,
and Ella Villamor. Thank you for listening to episode 1 of Perception on the Truths of Information Age, the private podcast. Have a great day!